My old neighborhood still has the security cameras we installed 3 years ago. Every house on Maple Street equipped with the same system, all because of that string of break-ins back in 2021. Now those cameras serve a different purpose. They're evidence in 2 divorce cases, frame-by-frame documentation of my destruction. 4:30 in the afternoon walking to his house, 7:15 walking back. Timestamps that line up with lies about yoga classes and grocery runs. Technology catching what suspicious spouses had started to piece together on their own. I know this because my ex-husband Wayne sent me screenshots last week. No message, just the photos. Me in my workout clothes that never saw a gym. Me smoothing my hair as I left their front door. Me looking both ways before crossing back to our side of the street, as if traffic were my biggest concern. The metadata on each image was precise down to the second, creating a timeline of betrayal that no lawyer could argue against. Now I live in a studio apartment in Memphis, 500 miles from that suburban street in Columbus, where I destroyed 2 marriages with the man who lived 40 feet away. Where our spouses became detectives, comparing calendars and credit card statements until the truth was undeniable. Where the geometry of adultery was as simple as crossing a lawn. The Fosters moved in next door in the summer of 2020. Patricia and James and their 8-year-old twins, Kyle and Emma, the same age as my daughter Sophie. We watched from our living room window as the moving truck unloaded their life. The kind of furniture that matched, artwork that looked original, bikes that cost more than our monthly car payment. "New neighbors," Wayne said, always one for stating the obvious. He was holding baby Luke, our surprise second child who'd arrived just 6 months earlier. "Should we go introduce ourselves?" "Let them settle in first," I said, but I was already cataloging details. The way James directed the movers with easy authority. His rolled-up sleeves revealing tanned forearms. The way he caught his daughter when she jumped from the truck ramp, spinning her around like they were in a movie. Wayne went over that evening with a 6-pack of beer and our phone number scrawled on a napkin. Came back an hour later buzzing with the excitement of new friendship. "Great guy," he announced. "Lawyer downtown, does corporate litigation. Patricia's in pharmaceutical sales, travels a lot. Twins are going to Sophie's school. We should have them over for dinner." And we did. That first dinner was perfectly normal. 2 couples getting to know each other over Wayne's famous brisket, kids playing in the backyard, Patricia and I bonding over the challenges of working mothers, she with her travel schedule, me with my real estate clients who called at all hours, Wayne and James discovering shared interests in baseball and home improvement projects. "It's so nice to have neighbors we actually like," Patricia said, helping me clear plates. "The twins have been begging for friends on the street." If someone had told me that night I'd end up sleeping with her husband for 18 months, that our spouses would unite in their shared betrayal to document our every move, I would have called them insane. I was happy. Wayne was a good husband, devoted father, the kind of man who still brought me flowers every Friday. We had a good life, a stable life. But stable can become stagnant. Good can become boring. And James Foster had a way of looking at me that made me remember I was more than someone's wife and mother. It started with the morning runs. I'd mentioned wanting to get back in shape after Luke, and James offered to show me his route. 5:30 a.m., before the kids woke up, before the day's obligations began, just 2 neighbors maintaining their health. "Wayne doesn't run?" James asked on that first morning, both of us stretching against the mailboxes. "Bad knees from college football," I said. "Plus, he's not really a morning person." "Patricia either. Says the only reason to be up at 5:30 is if you're catching a flight." We laughed at our spouse's laziness, not recognizing the first small betrayal, bonding over what our partners wouldn't do. The runs became regular, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 20 minutes through the neighborhood, past the park, around the elementary school. We'd talk about our days, our work, our kids, never our marriages, not directly. But the absence of Wayne and Patricia in our conversations spoke volumes. "You're getting faster," James noted after a month. "Pretty soon you won't need me slowing you down." "I'll always need a running partner," I said. "Accountability and all that." The look he gave me suggested he heard more in those words than I'd intended. Or maybe exactly what I'd intended. Even now I can't say when friendly turned to flirting, when innocent became intentional. The first time we kissed was in his garage. Patricia was in Boston. Wayne had taken the kids to his mother's for the weekend. I'd gone over to borrow their pressure washer, a legitimate reason that became something else entirely. "I shouldn't be here," I said, even as I stepped closer. "Probably not," he agreed, pulling me against him. The garage smelled like motor oil and cut grass. A suburban cliché so perfect it should have warned me. But all I could think about was how different his hands felt from Wayne's, how his mouth tasted like the mint gum he always chewed, how alive I felt for the first time since Luke was born. We pulled apart when a car drove by, the spell temporarily broken. "This can't happen again," I said. "Absolutely not," he agreed. It happened again the next day. The affair was conducted with suburban precision. Patricia's travel schedule posted on their kitchen calendar became our guide. Wayne's shifts at the hospital where he worked as a radiologic technician were predictable. 3 12-hour days, 4 days off. We had windows of opportunity that we exploited with increasing recklessness. Mornings were safest. Kids at school, spouses at work or away. I'd tell my real estate clients I was showing houses, then spend 2 hours in James's bed. He'd work from home those days, laptop closed, phone on silent. We convinced ourselves we were careful. "What are we doing?" I asked once, lying in their guest room. We had that much decency, at least, not to use his marital bed. "Being happy," he said, like it was that simple. "Our families are fine. Wayne's a good father, Patricia's a good mother. We're not taking anything away from them." But we were. Every lie carved away trust. Every stolen moment took time that belonged to our spouses. Every time we chose each other, we chose against our families. The first crack came from Sophie, my observant 10-year-old. "Why do you go to Mr. Foster's house when Mrs. Foster isn't home?" she asked one afternoon, helping me fold laundry. My hand stilled on Wayne's t-shirt. "What do you mean, sweetie?" "Yesterday when I forgot my library book, I came back from the bus stop and saw you going inside their house. But Mrs. Foster's car wasn't there." "I was borrowing something," I said, the lie bitter on my tongue. "Sometimes neighbors help each other out." She nodded, but I caught the doubt in her eyes. Kids know. They always know. Patricia started noticing things too. Nothing dramatic, just small observations delivered with a sharp smile. "James mentioned you've been helping him reorganize his home office," she said at a block party. "So kind of you to take time from your busy schedule." "Just being neighborly," I replied, hating how Wayne beamed at this evidence of my generosity. "The best neighbors," she agreed, her eyes holding mine a beat too long. But it was the cameras that really started our downfall. The security system the whole street had invested in, motion-activated and cloud-connected. I'd forgotten about them, grown so comfortable in my routine that I stopped noticing the little red lights that blinked when they recorded. Wayne noticed, though, started paying attention to the alerts on his phone. Motion detected at front door, motion detected at driveway, always during times I was supposedly elsewhere. "Funny thing," he said one evening, scrolling through his phone. "The camera caught you coming home at 2:30 yesterday. Thought you said your showing ran until 4? "Client canceled at the last minute," I said smoothly. "I ran some errands instead." He kept scrolling. "And Tuesday?" "Camera has you leaving at 9 and coming back at 9:15. "Quick errands?" "Forgot something in my car." He nodded, but I saw him make a note in his phone. Wayne, the detail-oriented medical professional trained to spot abnormalities. And I was becoming an abnormality. James and I got sloppy as we got comfortable. Longer lunches, riskier meetings. Once Patricia called while I was in their bedroom. James answered, cool as could be, while I held my breath under the covers like a teenager. "No, haven't seen her," he told his wife. "Maybe try her cell." The irony of lying to Patricia about my whereabouts while lying in her bed should have shaken me. Instead, it thrilled me. The danger, the deception, the double life. I was addicted to all of it. The beginning of the end came in February, a random Tuesday when Patricia's flight got canceled due to weather. She came home to find my car in their driveway and no one answering the door. She used her key, called out for James, walked through her own house like a stranger. She found us in the guest room. No dramatic confrontation, no screaming or thrown objects. She just stood in the doorway, taking in the scene with the clinical detachment of someone confirming a diagnosis they'd already made. "Get out," she said quietly. Only to me. To James, she said nothing at all. I dressed in horrified silence, Patricia watching with those cold eyes. As I passed her in the hallway, she whispered, "Your house." 20 minutes. We need to talk. Those 20 minutes were the longest of my life. I sat at my kitchen table, shaking, waiting for the knock. When it came quiet and controlled, I almost wished she'd pounded on the door instead. She entered my home, the home where she'd eaten dinner, where our kids had played, like she owned it. Sat at my kitchen table with perfect posture and laid out her phone. "I've suspected for months," she began, swiping through photos. "James isn't as clever as he thinks. Neither are you." The photos were damning. Screenshots of credit card charges, lunches for two on days he'd supposedly eaten at his desk, location data from his phone showing him home when he'd claimed to be at the office, and worse, a spreadsheet where she'd tracked anomalies. My documented whereabouts versus what the neighborhood cameras showed, a pattern obvious to anyone who looked. "Does Wayne know?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Not yet. I wanted to speak with you first. Professional courtesy, one working woman to another." "Patricia, I'm so sorry." She held up a hand. "Don't. I'm not here for apologies or explanations. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to end this with James immediately. You're going to tell Wayne everything, and then we're all going to deal with the consequences like adults." "I can't tell Wayne. It would destroy him. You should have thought of that before you started fucking my husband." The profanity was shocking from her perfectly lipsticked mouth. "You have 24 hours. If you haven't told him by then, I will, and I'll make sure he has all the evidence he needs for a very favorable divorce." She stood to leave, then turned back. "Oh, and Amanda?" "The cameras aren't just outside. I had one installed in the guest room last month. Nanny cam in the picture frame. You might want to prepare Wayne for that footage, too." The blood drained from my face. She smiled, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her. 24 hours, she repeated, and left. I told James first. Called him, hysterical, babbling about cameras and evidence and Patricia knowing everything. "Slow down," he said, but I could hear the panic creeping into his voice. What exactly did she say? When I explained about the guest room camera, he went silent for so long I thought we'd been disconnected. "Jesus," he finally breathed. "Jesus Christ. In our house? She filmed us in our house? What do? We do what she said. We tell them. We deal with it. James, I can't. We don't have a choice, Amanda." If that footage exists, do you think she's bluffing? A bitter laugh. Patricia doesn't bluff. If she says she has it, she has it. And she'll use it. We hung up without saying goodbye, without saying anything about feelings or the future, or whether what we had was worth what we were about to lose. In the end, we were just two selfish people trying to minimize the damage. I told Wayne that night after the kids were in bed. Sat him down at the same kitchen table where Patricia had shown me the evidence. Watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, rage, and finally a kind of broken acceptance. "James Foster," he said, not a question. "Our neighbor. The guy whose kids play with our daughter. The guy I had beers with last weekend. Wayne --. How long? Does it matter?" "How long?" "Over a year." He stood so abruptly his chair fell backwards, went to the window, stared at their house lit up against the darkness. "A year, a fucking year, in their house, in our house?" "Never our house." "Oh, well, that makes it better." The sarcasm was unlike him. Wayne didn't do bitter. Just their house, just 40 feet away, just close enough that Sophie could have seen. He stopped. Sophie, does she know? My silence was answer enough. Our daughter knows you were sneaking into their house. Our 10-year-old knows. He laughed, wild and painful. Christ, Amanda, what else? What else did you expose her to? She doesn't know what was happening. She just saw me go over there sometimes. Sometimes? Right. He pulled out his phone, started scrolling. Let's see what sometimes looks like. January 12th, 1:30 p.m., January 14th, 9 a.m., January 18th, 2 p.m. Should I keep going? I've got months of this, months of you walking to their house in the middle of the day. You've been tracking me? I've been trying to figure out why my wife was acting strange. Why you stopped wanting me to touch you. Why you were always freshly showered when I got home. I thought maybe you were depressed, going through something. I was worried about you. The pain in his voice was unbearable. This good man who'd loved me faithfully for 12 years, who'd trusted me completely, reduced to studying security footage of his own front door. I'm sorry, I said, knowing how inadequate it was. Are you? Or are you sorry you got caught? I couldn't answer. Didn't know the answer. Wayne slept in Luke's nursery that night. I heard him in there crying quietly while our baby slept. The sound broke something in me that James's hands had already cracked. The next morning, Patricia was in her driveway with a suitcase. Wayne went out to talk to her, still in his pajamas, our baby on his hip. I watched from the window as they talked, Patricia showing him something on her phone, Wayne's face darkening with each swipe. When he came back in, he couldn't look at me. She showed you, I asked. Enough. He handed Luke to me, the first time he'd done so without making sure I had a good grip. I'm taking Sophie to school. When I get back, I want you gone. Wayne, please, can't we talk about this? Counseling, therapy, something? You want to work on our marriage? You want to fix this? He finally met my eyes. There's video, Amanda. Video of you in their bed. Do you understand what that means? That it's not just Patricia and me who know? That evidence exists. That if this goes to court... She wouldn't. She already sent it to James's work email. CC'd their senior partners. He's probably being fired as we speak. I sank into a chair. Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, God. So no, we can't work on this. We can't fix this. You and James didn't just cheat. You did it stupidly. You did it next door. You did it where our children could see, where cameras could record, where the whole neighborhood could know. You humiliated all of us. He was right. Every word was right. The divorces were swift and brutal. Wayne got the house, primary custody, everything. I got supervised visitation and a reputation that preceded me everywhere. The footage was never made fully public. Patricia had gotten what she wanted just by proving it existed. But the damage was done. James lost his job, his marriage, joint custody of his kids. Patricia took the twins to Sacramento, where her company is headquartered. Last I heard, James was working at a small firm in Akron. He was living in a one-bedroom apartment, seeing Kyle and Emma one weekend a month. The house on Maple Street sold within 6 months. Wayne couldn't stand living next to the scene of so much deception. He found a place across town, closer to his parents, farther from the memories. I helped Sophie pack her room, trying not to cry as she carefully wrapped the friendship bracelets Emma Foster had made her. I hate that they moved away, she said. Emma was my best friend. I know, baby. I'm sorry. Is it my fault? Because I saw you going to their house? No, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. Sometimes adults make bad choices. Like you did? The directness of children. Yes, like I did. Wayne had done his best to shield her from the details, but kids understand more than we think. She knew her mother had done something that made everyone angry, something that broke up 2 families, something that made her friends move away. Will you and Dad be friends again? She asked. We'll always be your parents. That won't change. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was the only one I had. The security footage became evidence in both divorces. Time-stamped proof of adultery that made custody battles and asset division straightforward. The same cameras we'd installed to protect our street had documented its destruction. I found an apartment in Memphis, far enough away to start fresh, but close enough to drive back for my limited time with the kids. Got a job with a commercial real estate firm that didn't care about my personal life as long as I met quotas. Built a new existence that looked nothing like the suburban dream I'd demolished. Wayne remarried last year. A pediatric nurse named Claire who Sophie adores. They're careful with me, cordial for the children's sake. Claire sends me photos of school events I'm not invited to, updates on Luke's milestones I'm missing. She's a good stepmother, better than I probably deserve. "Mom, are you happy?" Sophie asked during a recent visit. She's 13 now, all legs and complicated emotions. "I'm okay, sweetheart." "Are you happy?" "Yeah, I mean, it's weird having two houses and Claire's nice and everything, but what? I miss how things were before, when you and Dad were together and the Fosters lived next door and everything was normal." Normal. As if my afternoon visits to James were normal. As if the lies and deception were normal. But to her, they were. That was our life, built on a foundation of betrayal she couldn't see. "I miss it too," I admitted. "Do you ever talk to Mr. Foster?" "No, honey. That wouldn't be appropriate." "Emma says he's really sad. She texts me sometimes, says he lives in this tiny apartment and never does anything fun." The parallel lives James and I were living, separated by geography, but united in our isolation. Both of us in small apartments in cities where we knew no one, where our children visited but never stayed, where the excitement of our affair had been replaced by the monotony of consequences. "I'm sorry you lost your friend," I said. "Yeah, well," she shrugged with forced teenage indifference. "Things change." Things change. The understatement of the century from a child who'd learned too young that adults were capable of destroying entire worlds for selfish reasons. Patricia sent me one final message about 6 months after everything exploded. A photo of her and the twins at a beach in California, all of them smiling and sun-kissed. The caption read, "Thank you for the clarity. We're happier than ever." I didn't respond. What was there to say? That I was sorry? That I missed James? That I wished we'd never started or that we'd been more careful? None of it mattered. The damage was done, documented in time-stamped increments by the very cameras meant to keep us safe. The neighbors on Maple Street probably still talk about us. The cautionary tale of the Bakers and the Fosters. Two families who had everything and lost it because two people couldn't keep their hands off each other. Because a bored housewife and a neglected husband found excitement in proximity, danger in the ordinary act of crossing a lawn. My new neighborhood doesn't have security cameras, doesn't have block parties or borrowed cups of sugar, or children who drift between houses like they all belong to everyone. It's anonymous and isolating and exactly what I deserve. Sometimes I dream about those morning runs with James. The innocent beginning before everything turned complicated. Just two neighbors maintaining their health, bonding over shared roots and lazy spouses. If I could go back, would I do it differently? Would I have stayed in my own house, my own bed, my own life? The answer changes depending on the day. Sometimes I think, yes, of course, look what it cost. Other times, in the lonely hours of my Memphis apartment, I remember the electricity of his touch, the thrill of being desired, the addictive rush of leading a double life. And I understand why I risked everything for something that was always doomed to end. The security footage told the story in black and white, time-stamped truth that allowed no interpretation. Woman leaves house. Woman enters neighbor's house. Woman exits neighbor's house hours later. Repeat, 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 until someone notices the pattern, until someone asks the questions, until the whole thing comes crashing down in a mess of lawyers and moving trucks and children who don't understand why their friends have to leave. 4:30 in the afternoon, walking to his house. 7:15 walking back. The geometry of destruction mapped out in precise digital detail. Some mistakes are private, hidden in the hearts of those who make them. Mine were recorded, uploaded, preserved in the cloud for lawyers and judges and ex-husbands to review. Frame by frame, evidence of every choice that led to this moment, to this apartment, to this life, lived in the aftermath of exposure. The cameras are still there on Maple Street, still recording every movement, every visitor, every ordinary moment of suburban life. New families have moved in, unaware of the drama those lenses documented. They'll install their own stories, create their own memories, never knowing that those same cameras once captured the destruction of everything I held dear. 40 feet. That's all it was. 40 feet between my front door and his. 40 feet that might as well have been an ocean for all the damage crossing it caused. 40 feet recorded in high definition, compressed into evidence files, played back in lawyers' offices while marriages dissolved. Technology was supposed to make us safer. Instead, it made our secrets visible, our lies quantifiable, our betrayals undeniable. Every motion detected, every timestamp recorded, every crossing documented. The neighbors' eyes were always watching. We just forgot they were always digital.